list up. Councillor Matlow to speak.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So I have two motions. One is with respect to ensuring that the future allocations of community benefit charges come to council. This is a motion that I worked on with several councillors who I think share a common view that the process and the allocation used should not be decided solely by staff, but that councillors should have an opportunity to be not only part of that discussion, but ensure that where we have growth, and we are a growing city, that we have a quality of life for both the residents who live here today and those who will move here tomorrow. Parks, infrastructure, social services. This is what we are here to do, and I'm very confident that this council will support this motion, and I'm very grateful to Chair Perks and all of my colleagues who are part of this conversation in support of their communities, which they represent so well. And then my other motion is the one that I referred to earlier, that Council direct the Chief Financial Officer and Treasurer to ensure reserve funds are stable in the event of U.S. tariffs, to allow strategic investments that support the businesses and residents most affected. And I'll just say more briefly, obviously, because I spoke about it earlier, but just I want to reiterate that every household in our country is being advised by financial experts that during the time of uncertainty and vulnerability, if you have the means to have some savings for whatever it might come, and then use it wisely and strategically to address the challenge that comes, that's the best path forward. And I know that the mayor and every member of this council wants to ensure that no matter what Donald Trump does to our country, and affecting the many sectors and people who will most likely be more reliant on everything from food banks to shelter support to many social services if we're drawn into a recession due to Donald Trump's bullying of our country. We're going to need to have the resources and the means to be able to invest in our people and into jobs and to ensure that they're well while we're going through this storm. So I look forward to hopefully your support and supporting our economic action plan to wisely, strategically invest in the people of Toronto. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Burnside.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Speaker. I have a few motions here. If we can put them on the screen, that would be great. Please, thank you. So this is simply when we're reporting, when we're doing comparisons between municipalities about tax burden. I just want one of the slides to include what the tax burden would be on property owners if we didn't have the municipal land transfer tax. And just to quote actually Councillor Carroll from 2007, she says, Councillor Carroll argued that if the land transfer tax isn't approved, oh, thanks. Thanks. If the land transfer tax isn't, sorry, let me start again. Argued that if the land transfer tax isn't approved, property taxes will be increased and homeowners would have to pay that increase every year rather than a one-time increase when they buy. So, hello, Councillor Carroll. So, really what I'm saying is I don't have a problem with the MLTT. I just want to people to understand when the places like the Toronto Star are making comparisons about tax burden on property owners that up to this point, unless Hamilton does something, that tax burden is actually quite a bit different than what is reported. It's not simply the mill rate and the annual taxes. So, that's my first motion. Second motion. Simply when the Chief Financial Officer and Treasurer, when they describe the annual budget reductions in public documents to separate out efficiencies. Right now, quite often that is presented as one larger number. And oh, thank you. Thank you for your feedback. I know everyone appreciates it.
Councillor
and
Carroll, please.
It's okay. It's just what she does. It's okay. So I just want it separated out as a line. I know it's sort of further subdivided after the big number, and if we already do it, then I guess it won't be a problem to vote for it. And then the last one is that City Council requests the TTC board to find opportunities for further savings, including but not limited to a modest fare increase. And then also the same thing when they describe their budget, as we heard in my questions, 21 million of that total number of 37 million was actually just an accounting change. So I think it's a little bit confusing for the public. I just want them to separate efficiencies out. In terms of the TTC fare increase, just potentially looking at that, I would like to remind council of a couple things. One is that pre-COVID, the burden on transit users was about 66% of the total cost, with the city subsidizing about 1/3, so 2/3, 1/3. That number is now dropped to 38%, whereas I believe the industry standard for transit is about 50% user pay, 50% government pay. So we're a little bit low, and there's, I'd also like to remind folks that when we talk about people affording the service, we do have the fare pass system, which I believe is a 26% reduction over, obviously, off the top rate of the TTC. So for folks that can't afford the TTC, there is the fare pass, which has been in existence and used by, I believe, about 13,000 individuals. And then lastly, I believe about 12 to 15% of people who use the TTC don't even live in the city. So in effect, we're subsidizing those users as well. And I look back at the last 5 years of TTC fares. I believe it's about $3.30 now. It was $3.20. It's gone up. TTC fares have gone up by 10 cents in 5 years. And I believe inflation was somewhere around 17%, which would put it the appropriate price if it were adjusted to inflation at $3.75. So there's obviously been a net reduction in the actual TTC fare, given the impacts of inflation, and I would just like the board to consider consider those elements when looking at their budget next year. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ainsley.
Thank you, Speaker. I do have a motion that I would like to move, that City Council direct the City Manager to ensure that all City divisions and boards of the City's agencies and corporations include performance against service standards in the annual budget presentations. This is something that we've been striving, working through at our Service Excellence Committee. I'm doing a lot of work around service standards at the General Government Committee. I often hear from people paying their property taxes or paying their taxes. How do they know they're getting value for money? And I think having performance against service standards outlined in individual budgets when everyone comes for their annual budget ask is very important. And it's a great tool for us to understand if they're doing the job that we're giving them the money for. So I'd ask for everybody's support for this. And thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Councillor Bravo.
Thank you, Speaker. You caught me in the middle of eating some food. I think that it's really great to see that the Mayor has moved this motion on making sure that as we spend more or we invest in school nutrition programs, that we're thinking about how they can pay off more in more ways. Keeping dollars circulating in our local economy is really important. That's what the Inclusive Economic Development Framework is about. And it's about making sure that everyone is able to equitably participate in the economy. If we have not an eye to thinking about how when we purchase services, when we hire people, are we ensuring that there are more dollars kept within the city? Then we're missing an opportunity for community wealth building. Secondly, cheeky and interesting to take a look at how our city dollars may or may not be ending up in the pockets of people that are actively working against Canadian interests. And I think that the motion on Tesla is something that's important to support for that reason, is that we have to put our money where our mouth is, and our purchasing power, again, says a lot about what we value and who we are. Of course, the question of whether we're achieving standards in parks is important to everyone, and we all hear about it. And I think that the motions that Councillor Matlow moved will be helpful in terms of making sure that we have a good oversight over how those community development, community benefits charges are being used. Just keeping in mind, however, that we can't raise expectations that they will help us to do all of the things that we need to do locally, given that they're so low and that we're so limited by the province. Finally, I think that in relation to Councillor Burnside's motions, it is important that we are making sure that we're achieving what we need to do at TTC. I am, however, concerned that we would be recommending to TTC now to look at a fare increase when TTC fares have increased over time much higher than the rate of inflation. So we have to consider that people's wages did not go up at the same time. People's income did not increase at the same time. In fact, for many people who don't qualify for the fare pass but are living below the poverty line or even close to the poverty line, paying TTC every day is a big burden. And those are the very people who may have to travel great distances, who don't have a reliable service, but they take care of our kids, they take care of our elderly people, they work in manufacturing, they work in construction, they keep the city running. And so I just want to be conscious that at TTC, I know that we are taking a new look at how we build our budget. We have approved a ridership growth strategy as a driving principle, so that we're actually putting the rider at the center of it and thinking about how do we attract riders back? How do we make sure that people want to pay? It's interesting because fare evasion has come up a lot today, but I want to remind people that Toronto used to stand out in the world for one of the highest compliance rates. People were happy to pay for TTC. And I remember being a TTC rider and seeing people drop their money in the booth, whether or not there was a collector there, because they believed in the TTC. But it's been a long time since TTC felt like it loved us back. And so that's what we're trying to rebuild today. And part of the process of getting to the ridership growth strategy includes a new committee that was formed by the board, which is to take a strategic look at how we're aligning all our decisions to that outcome, so that the people believe in the TTC, support the TTC, ride it, and pay their fare. So I would suggest that that first part of that motion is something that we should leave to that process, so that when we build the budget, it's actually responsive, and so that it actually produces the outcome that we want. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you. Councillor Fletcher.
I'll be very quick. I just have a motion, and that is City Council requests the Executive Director Housing Secretariat as part of the $4.5 million within the 2025 capital budget to develop a new choice-based housing access system for the new affordable rental, to provide for the inclusion of sector-specific resident targeting for important groups such as workers in arts, film, television, and culture, and also other sectors. Because there is no way that sector housing is something that we've talked about in this council chambers for years and years and years. And I think it was actually when Councillor Vaughan was here, which is quite a while ago, that he introduced the importance of sector housing to keep workers like teachers, artists, musicians, and others in the city of Toronto and able to live here and work here. So this new program that will be bought really and truly needs to cover all the bases, and this is just a motion to ensure that it's part of that. Thank you.
Oh, we do have a question for you. Councillor Candeval, 3 minutes clarification of the motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Councillor Fletcher, for this. I just want to get clarity on what exactly is being proposed. So would this access system be accessible to folks in the stated sectors? Like if you're in that sector, you'd be able to participate in a choice-based housing? What is it?
Well, the choice-based housing currently for the affordable housing, before you came here, when it's affordable housing, it's not from the wait list. So there's an exclusive list that's built for affordable, 80% of market, et cetera, et cetera. It isn't part of our current wait list. And that's constantly it's not being renewed. In other words, there's no wait list for that. So that's being built now, and having an option to ensure that in certain places and areas, such as at the McCleary district in my area, I've built in for the affordable that it target the film industry and cultural sector workers because it's in the studio district, that software, whatever's being built, can accommodate that for sector. Might be for teachers, I don't know, but that certain number of units could be set aside for those folks from that sector because doesn't exist yet.
Okay, and they would have to show proof of working in those sectors with income to qualify for this new model that you want created?
Well, anybody who's going into the new model, the 80% or the 70%, they have to show that.
Right.
And right now it's a draw.
Right.
So the draw, however it would be done, let's say the co-op on Queen Street that was rebuilt, I set aside 5 for artist housing. So in all the 26 units, 5 of those were filled with those criteria, though, Councillor, that you had to show who you were, show which arts you were in, et cetera, et cetera.
So you're not prescribing in this motion how many, but asking staff to create a model?
No, that when that's built,
Yeah.
that it have that flexibility to be able to do that for sector housing.
Okay, thank you.
Didn't know I had such a popular
Councillor
motion
Holliday,
here.
3 minutes.
Thank you. Could you provide the list of sectors or some samples again, please?
I just have those in this motion. It says such as workers in the arts, film, television, culture, as I mentioned in the Riverdale Co-op, because you may or may not know, as things are gentrifying, all the artists are having a hard time finding a place to live. On Queen East, there used to be 6 or 7 galleries. There's nothing. And we're driving some of these important, vibrant sector workers out of the city. So this is just allowing us to have that capacity. In McCleary District, which is right down on Commissioners, between Commissioners and Lakeshore, and in where the films are, Film District, in order to make sure workers who are in that industry have a chance at living where they work, this would be able to set aside certain units for them, but there's no method to pick them. So this would set that up. I know you're very high tech, so it would be within whatever that new system is. That, of course, it's based on your income. You can't be there. Everything's based on the income of the affordable housing. It's just some would be for artists, some might be for teachers. Just depends on what the need is and where.
So if you quit your job, do you get kicked out?
No. What?
Well, it's targeting sector-based,
I can't say if you quit your job. Then maybe you can't pay the rent. So maybe you'll have to leave because these aren't RGI, Councillor.
No,
these are not RGI. They're
genuinely
affordable
want to
units.
understand, like, if it's targeting sectors and if the person may apply while working in that sector, but if they change sectors, what do we do? Like, they've got a home.
Generally, people in a sector showing they're a long-term person in that sector. This first started at, I think it was with Artscape and Daniels on the waterfront. They set a certain number aside. There were hundreds of people that are in the arts. You know, the Toronto Arts Council, there's not people that bounce around. When you're in the arts industry, When you're in certain professions, you're there. When you're in the film industry, that's a good job, but you obviously still need a place to live close by. We are driving sector workers out of the city because of the high cost of housing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I just think we should have an ability to make sure that key workers in our economy have an ability to live in the city, Councillor.
Okay.
Councillor Perks to speak.
Yes, Councillor, I'd submitted a motion to the clerk. I don't know if it's ready yet. Oh, it is. There we go. Okay, so my motion is to amend Councillor Holliday's motion 2A so that it would now read, City Council requests the Mayor to consider the viability of a tax rate increase which is at or below the rate of inflation while delivering the services Torontonians deserve in future year proposed budgets. The reason why I want to make this amendment is it's actually quite simple. Some people talk about taxes as if it is a one-way street. You pay your taxes and the money disappears. That's not actually the case. Taxes buy services. In fact, taxes are the way we build the city and the services that people who live in that city depend on. And it's foolish in the extreme to only consider one half of the equation. It would be as if, say, Councillor Holladay walked into the grocery store, filled up his cart, tapped his credit card, and then left the groceries there. You actually tap the credit card to buy the groceries. You pay the taxes to buy the services. The viability part that I wanted to talk about is very important. We've heard a lot today about a couple of things that this mayor has achieved and is working to further accomplish. The first is the New Deal. This budget, for just to pick one random example, takes $300 million that was once upon a time targeted to rebuilding a highway and gives it to Toronto Community Housing to rebuild people's homes. That's part of what we accomplished in the first phase of the New Deal. But the mayor's made it very clear there has to be a second step because we still are not in a place where in the long term we're financially viable and able to deliver the services Torontonians want. The second piece, of course, is the city's long-term financial plan, which talks about a whole range of things that we have to do as a city to get to that stable public finance model where we no longer have a structural deficit. When the day comes that Mayor Chow has succeeded in delivering those two things, and I think it's going to be sooner rather than later, at least I hope so, then we will have done something that no government since amalgamation has been able to do. We will have put the City of Toronto on stable financial footing. And it will be a remarkable accomplishment. And when we get there, we might be at the place where, yes, having regular property tax increases tied to the rate of inflation is a real thing. Finishing with that, I wanted to talk a little bit about one of Councillor Holliday's other motions. Remember I asked him those questions about the tax rebates? So I asked the city manager, or the speaker, to look into whether it's legal for us to do that. And it is, but you can only give the rebate proportionate to the amount of taxes paid. So with help from financial planning, I did a little bit of work, and I said to myself, okay, so let's suppose we can have a 5% rebate 1 year. How would that look? Well, for the average home assessed at $700,000, you'd get a $208 check. Not that different from what the Premier's doing. But wait, if you're a tenant, you don't pay property taxes. The landlord does. The landlord gets your check. Oh, there's more. If you own a large commercial tower in downtown Toronto, your 5% rebate check would be $32,000. If you owned a large shopping mall, large shopping center in the City of Toronto, your tax rate would be rebate would be $230,000. So the effect of what Councillor Holyday is asking for is to give tenants nothing and the owners of large large retail complexes $250,000. So I don't think we should be even asking staff to report on that. It's a waste of time, it's regressive, and it is certainly not the way to build the kind of Toronto that we want. Thank you.
Okay, just, Councillor Pruitt, please. Point of order, Councillor Holyday.
There's actually two. So the first point of order is I would like you to rule on whether Councillor Perks's comments on the main motion, which he proposed to amend, where he debated the merits of the motion, are in order, because that is contrary to the procedure bylaw, specifically 2796D. And the second, I would like you to rule as to whether or not the main, his amending motion is in order because of the boundary at which he can amend the motion and bring it into a new discussion. So he has asked the mayor to both consider the viability of a motion, which is different than the main motion, and he introduces concepts relating to value or consideration of the services, and my main motion says nothing of that. So the amendment exceeds the boundaries that are contemplated under the procedures bylaw, and therefore it would be out of order.
Councillor Holyday, I'll look at that. Thank you.
Thank you.
We do have questions, Councillor Mantis to Councillor Perks.
Councillor Perks, just on the second motion.
Okay, just one sec.
Sure.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Just on the second motion, if you're a REIT and you own a large office building or a shopping center, since you have large corporations that are probably being the landlord, the tenants for those offices or stores, do you still collect a rebate?
As much as I'd love to answer that question, and the answer is no, only the property owner. I didn't move a motion on that topic, I just spoke to it. So, yeah. It's the property owner only who would get the rebate. It's the way the law works. We don't have any choice in that.
Councillor Carroll, please. Thank you, Councillor Perks. That's it for the questions. Councillor Cole to speak.
Thank you. First of all, I just want to say I'm supportive of the mayor's motion to basically not subsidize the world's richest man and to subsidize Tesla with hard-earned property tax dollars from Toronto taxpayers, especially when that company and that individual is the right-hand man of Mr. Trump that is trying to destroy the Canadian economy. And as you know, today they announced that the tariffs are going to be cumulative. So it's not only 25%, but the 25% is going to go on the other 25%. So we're looking at some possibly 50% increase in tariffs, which is a 50% increase on taxes. It's a tax increase coming from Mr. Musk and Mr. Trump. 50% on Canadian jobs. It's a job killer. And even the CEO of Ford said it's a job killer. Who's an American? So this is what we're faced with, and that's why we have to have a budget that pays attention to the future vulnerabilities we're going to face. And in fact, as I've tried to do, I have a Tesla dealership in my ward, and I'm going to do everything I can to get them to move out. I don't want Mr. Musk's company in my ward because this is the same person who told the German Nazi Party just recently, he said to them, "You've got to get over what you did in World War II. Get over it." That's what he said to the German Nazi Party. Then he had this accidental Nazi salute. I know it was accidental, whatever it is. So this is a person that we should not be subsidizing with Toronto taxpayer dollars. In terms of the challenges we face, we have, over the last 10 years, there's been a 35% growth in population. We're over 3 million people. And so people keep wondering, why do we have to raise taxes? Why are we charging more for certain fees and so forth? Well, we've got a 35% increase in population. And as you know, when people come to Toronto, they quickly ask for services. They use our library, they use our transit system, their kids go to schools, they want breakfast programs. So this is an enormous pressure that we've had to deal with essentially as a city. We get help from time to time from the provincial and federal government, but always the result of us begging and pleading for money with their immigration policies. I mean, the feds opened up the door and let everybody into the country. Being an immigrant myself, thank God, it's great to be here, but show us the money along with the immigration. They didn't. So that's what Toronto has been faced with. Unlimited, wide open immigration with no financial support to deal with the needs that these people have. And we know most of the immigrants come here. Luckily, they create economic activity, so forth, but also they need help to start. And they need help for housing. They need help for programs, after-school programs. They need all that help. Again, that has been a pressure that's never recognized. And I sort of laugh at some of these communities outside of Toronto and say, well, Toronto's spending all this money. Well, why don't you take a share of the immigrants? Oh, no, we don't want any here. Oh, you take them in Toronto. That's their attitude, basically. And they say, well, Toronto is so expensive. Well, it's expensive because we have to pay the freight on everything because it is an expensive place to live. Our rents, basically rent control has been dismantled in Toronto by the provincial government. And that, I think, is the driving factor behind the affordability crisis, is trying to rent a place anywhere in the GTA is a painful thing.
5 seconds.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Perruzza.
Yeah, Speaker, I have a motion. I'm hoping the staff can put it on the screen, and it's pretty self-explanatory. And I'll briefly explain it. Okay, so Torontonians pay about $8.2 billion in property taxes. That's how much Torontonians pay through their property tax. $8.2 billion in total. But do we get that money? Do we get all of that money? No, we don't. Right? We don't get all of that money. Does anybody in Toronto know that we don't get all of that money? No, they don't. And I'll tell you why. I'll explain why. Because the province has whittled its way onto our property tax bill. In fact, they've whittled their way, they've burrowed their way there so deep that they actually have regulations on the size of font that you can put on that property tax bill, the explanations that you can give for that property tax bill. You see, you're prohibited from sending two property tax bills, one for the City of Toronto and one for the Province of Ontario. Why are we prohibited? Because through regulation, it's prescribed that way. They're hidden there. They've hidden themselves there. They've whittled their way there. They've burrowed their way there.
through a series of regulations, right down to the font type and size. So what do they do? What have they done by doing that? They basically extract from the city's property tax base $2.2 billion, right? So we get, out of the $8.2 billion that's paid, we get a little under 6, they get the balance. Now, what do property taxes represent? They represent about 30% of our overall budget. 30%. What do monies from the provincial and federal governments represent? Roughly the same thing as property tax. So what's the ongoing perpetual game that's played here? Simple. They reduce their transfers to us, their monies to us. They force us to increase property taxes. I remember the speech when we introduced the land transfer tax. I don't know, 15 years ago, 17 years ago, 18 years ago. I remember the speech. This solves the structural problems in our budget. I remember that. I remember those words. I can quote it. Well, did it solve the structural problems in our budgets? No, let me see. No, it didn't. Why? Because we need, to transfer $1.3 billion out of reserves and a whole bunch of other things. And then, as Councillor Cole said, every year we need to go as beggars on our knees to the other levels of government and say, please don't cut, because as you cut, we either have to increase property taxes beyond people's ability to pay or willy-nilly wipe out services. That's it. That's the game forever. Does any Torontonian know that $2.2 billion of their property tax money is going to the provincial government? No, it's not. All that motion says is that that money rightfully belongs here. The province lost all right to that when Mike Harris made the changes he made. In fact, he promised it to us. He promised that he would take the government off the property tax bill. That was the promise for the transfer and all those things. So you increase property taxes, you make housing less affordable. You increase property taxes, you make life more difficult for people across the city. You increase property taxes, you don't build the city you want, and you don't pay for the services you need. That's the formula. That's the fight. That's the fight we have to roll up our sleeves and do. Otherwise, you'll never get to where you want to go.
5 seconds.
And you will just make it harder and harder and harder for people to live in the city.
5 seconds. Thank you. Thank you. You do have a question, though. Councillor Cole, 3 minutes clarification of the motion.
Councillor Cruz, you mentioned that out of the 8+ billions that we collect in property taxes, how much goes to the province?
$2.2 billion. They've burrowed their way in there and they just suck that right out. They just, and nobody knows.
And where does that go? What do they do with the $2 billion they suck out of our property taxes?
You know what? Give $200 in rebate checks to people across Ontario. Gimmicky things to buy their votes during election time. $1.5 billion on, sort of shortening a beer deal with the beer store early, paying that off, giving other kind of like freebies and trinkets, canceling Councillor Burnside's, for example, a sticker on his car and stuff like that, that kind of stuff. So they suck it out of Toronto and in gimmicky ways, try to, buy our votes with $200 checks, rebates across Ontario.
Okay, so the question is then, can we as a city put on that tax bill saying, hey, by the way, folks, out of this $8 billion plus, 2 of this is going to pay for Mr. Ford's giveaways.
Yeah, you probably, I would check with the lawyers.
It's for
I would
the
check with the lawyers,
education.
but you probably couldn't do that because through regulation, they prohibit us from doing that.
So we're not allowed to tell people where the money is going that we collect?
Right down to the font size, they stipulate how that property tax bill has to go out, what's on it, how it's written, how it's explained, and what it says. It is true. It is true.
Councillor
Check that out.
Burnside.
Through regulation, they do that.
So the money Councillor Burnside gets for his free gas and license plate, we pay for property taxpayers for his haircut too.
Yeah, so
Okay.
what we do is we make Torontonians pay through their property tax.
Enough.
And then
We're being silly now. We're being silly. Okay. We know what that is. It's education tax. Councillor Chang to speak.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I have a motion. A familiar old song I like to sing here at Council every budget. We need a new fiscal framework that creates a sustainable revenue stream, and we need to reiterate this ask to our provincial and federal government. Every budget, we need to remind them, because every day I get emails, why does my property tax have to pay for policing of our large and complex city that goes beyond what any other municipality has to take on, a regional transit system that supports the growth of our GDP, asylum seekers, childcare, mental health, addiction, a toxic drug supply that has created a crisis in homelessness. These are serious issues on the shoulders of our property taxpayers. It's not a sexy slogan like axe the tax, but a new fiscal framework should be something that we teach our residents, our children, the path to sustainability, the path to us not having to fight over $3 million to achieve a greater good at City Council, the path to having a city that doesn't have a growing state of grid repair backlog is a sustainable revenue stream. And New York City, Tokyo, Berlin, Chicago, and Madrid are some of the cities that do tap into a portion of income tax and sales tax. So I think at least every year, if not more often, we should remind our higher levels of government we want to be the great cash cow that we are for your economy. And you have to support our growth so that we can support your growth. You help us and we will help you. If our revenue tools grow with our economy, if hosting Taylor Swift results in a benefit to our economy, I think we'll be further incentivized to invest in programs that grow our contribution to the GDP. So I hope that you will support my motion to reiterate our request for a new fiscal framework for our city that can lead to sustainable development for our growing population. Thank you.
Speaker, Councillor Carroll.
Thanks, Madam Chair. First of all, my motions were advance circulated. We can scroll through them, but rather than read them in full, I'm going to read them in point form. The first one is to hold this conference. I don't think we're going to argue with a conference that addresses hate, extremism, and polarization on a global level. Motion B, I guess it's 11B now, is receiving funds to host the above with the other government participation should it come. Toronto Public Library is motion C, develop a more affordable staffing model to facilitate the open hours that we're phasing through. D is for Chief Chawla that the paramedics multi-year complement management plan come forward in time for the next budget. That we continue on with the program of rolling program reviews. They netted us $240 million in efficiencies this year, though some people didn't read briefing note 13 and don't seem to be aware of that. F is TTC reduce their reliance on property tax through implementing their AG recommendations, cracking down on fare evasion using their program, and setting better assumptions on actually making progress on it, not just saying they're going to make progress on it. And lastly, through intergovernmental advocacy, because that's the final frontier in terms of the TTC, getting back to the 1995 funding formula made famous by Premier Bill Davis. G, amend the agreements on the Broadview extension to facilitate early release of provincial funding mechanism. H, to request dispatching traffic wardens to suburban access and egress to highways pinch points where transit is most delayed and pedestrians are most at risk. I hope the transportation director will contact me about that one. I is the comprehensive development charges review. J is instructions to the chief procurement officer to align with Ontario and Canada as procurement practices begin to change to address the actions of President Trump and I dare say Elon Musk. And lastly, K, the resiliency strategy direction that we are submitting to the city manager and CFO to actually help businesses in a way that is collaborative with the other levels of government so that we're not at cross purposes to one another. What best can we do? So I hope people will have a look at those motions. I hope they will support them. Very quickly, I'm going to do what I like to call a Chief Soknacki. This is a motion soup, and so I'll just say that the series of motion number 1s from Mayor Chow, I can support them all. The series motion 2 from Councillor Holladay, 2A has now been amended, and as amended, I can support it, but B, C, and D, no, I cannot support them for the reasons already discussed by Councillor Perks. Motions 3. I'm going to say 3A, no. Let's take the actions in my motion that really have been developed by staff in concert with the businesses in the community and with the other orders of government who are preparing to respond to the economic action we're about to be victims of. And 3B, which is similar to that, let's collaborate with the businesses that are about to sit down with the mayor and with staff to work on what that resilience strategy and reaction strategy should be. 4A and 4B I can support. Yes, I believe those were Councillor Matlow's. 5A from Councillor Burnside. 5A, I suppose, what the heck. But 5B, kind of unnecessary. 5C, I would say no, because my motion number F really covers it, and in a way that we've already been collaborating and encouraging the TTC to use as a way to reduce their dependence on property tax. And I think we should let the financial planner continue that conversation with whomever will be the CFO. And then Councillor Perks' number 8 is the amendment, so we better support that. Yes, Councillor Bruce's motion is, it's the annual, it's the Salmon Fights for Survival motion. Every spring the salmon swims upstream. Councillor Bruce wants to swim upstream once again. And so my vote on that will be a yes, so I don't know why he's still talking. Motion number 10 from Councillor Chang is a yes. Another Salmon Fights for Survival motion. Obviously, we can all agree we need a better fiscal framework. And I dare say, Madam Speaker, that every major Canadian city needs a better fiscal framework. None of us is really easily going to be able to be resilient in the face of the challenges we are about to face because we don't have that viable fiscal formula. And so we really are really challenged going forward. All of us have overcommitted reserves that need to be doing serious work in our city, but somehow we're going to have to find a way to react. And I would submit that if you look at my motions, they were developed with staff. And that's the way we're going to get through this. I would ask you to hearken back to the global financial crisis. How do we get through it? Listening to Mr. Penichetti, listening to Mr. Weldon,
5 seconds.
Listening to the Economic Development Committee and their staff team, and we got through it. And this is more similar to that than to COVID, and we should do the same pattern of behavior.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
We do have a question for you.
Sure.
Councillor Burnside, clarification of the motion.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Speaker. I felt a wave of passive-aggressive energy coming my way. So
Yeah.
I just wanted to confirm that I was confused about the budget note. So that's why I asked Mr. Conforti, and he said the efficiencies was $41 million. No, I know,
Right.
but everyone does. Just give
Right.
me 15 seconds. Okay, that's my
Right.
that's my thing. But thank you for your insight. Specifically to the library motion. You asked them a more efficient business model. Do you have any thoughts on that, or what's the impetus for that?
Well, a more efficient staffing complement model. because as we learned in the Budget Committee during our deliberations, which are a public meeting that anyone can attend, what we learned was there are still some challenges, both within the bargaining agreement and within the actual business model that the library follows, that make continuing on with the open hours is a bit of a challenge at the moment, because their staffing model isn't really built on being open 7 days a week. They've managed it, but in a way that's not my favorite way of managing it. They've managed it mostly by having almost no full-time employees. So some of the impediments end up not having to pay many library employees simply by not letting anybody be a 40-hour-a-week employee. But we're now heading into a 7 days a week thing. We might actually be able to employ more youth because there's actually more of an opportunity if we're going to move away from that model. Perhaps we can have more youth doing the Saturday and Sunday models as part-timers, and more people who've got a degree in library sciences could actually be full-timers. So asking them to re-examine that staffing model so that it's both affordable for open hours, but also provides more youth opportunity.
I was going to follow up. Sorry,
like
Madam Speaker. I was going to follow up with a question, but Councillor Carroll needs to take a breath.
Well, I finished my answer now.
She just needs to take a breath. So okay, good. Does that include? Is one of the concerns the time and a half for Sunday hours?
Yeah, it does. And that's how they avoid it, is by having hardly any people who are eligible for that time and a half. That's how they've been avoiding that cost thus far.
Super.
But now there's an opportunity. Those people could be full-time at regular time, and there's far more part-time opportunity that we could use to satisfy that request from the Youth Cabinet. There should be more young people being allowed to be part of that 7-day-a-week complement. There's a real opportunity and a savings all in one.
Thank you. I'm glad I clarified.
Okay.
That was weird. I just want to say, weird energy, you two.
Okay,
weird energy.
We're ready to vote.
Oh my Lord.
Okay. Point of order, Councillor Mantis.
Can we vote for 1C first on a recorded vote, because I have to declare? Okay.
We'll do that, yes. Don't worry about that.
Thank you.
Sit down and be quiet. Sit down and be quiet.
And we know what we're doing here. Also, Councillor Cole, there's a couple of TTC motions as well. All right. Yes. Okay. Councillor Cole.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to thank the clerk. Just to amend my declaration of interest, because there's so many motions and I can't hear myself think with all this jabber here to my left.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, what's going on here?
Councillor Chernos, Lynn's name is on your question.
Okay. Okay, just one sec, please. Councillor Cole, please continue.
What are you doing?
Enough. We're finished with answering questions. We're finished with speaking. Right now, we're going to the vote. Councillor Cole.
Yeah, and just to clarify my declaration of interest, given all the number of motions here, I just want to make sure I'm declaring interest on 2025 point MPB 27.1 and also on CC 22.1, and that's the amended declaration of interest.
Okay, so before we go to the vote, no, we've shut that all off. We're in the middle of voting now, and I have to. Okay, on Councillor Holiday's, he asked to rule on whether Councillor Perks' amendment to Councillor Holiday's amendment complies with the rules of 27-9-6 of the Council Procedures. That section establishes rules for amendments to main motions. On this item, the main motion is composed of the recommendations of the CFO in his report on the implementation of the budget. Councillor Holiday's motion is itself an amendment to the main motion. It is not a main motion. Councillor Perks' motion is an amendment to the amendment, which is covered by different rule 27-9-7. The only rules about such an amendment is that the amendment must relate to the subject of the amendment. In my opinion, it does. Therefore, Councillor Perks' motion is in order, and that is my ruling. All right? That's one of the best rulings you've ever done. Okay, so let's start voting, guys. No, we're in the middle of voting now. I'm sorry.
I asked to separate motions to motion. When do I ask that? Through the speaker.
We're voting on all the motions separately.
Right, but I'm requesting to vote ad seriatim on Councillor Burnside's motion. It means one at a time, like each one. C.
Yes, that's
but C, divide C part 1 and part 2.
Yeah, Councillor.
Like the A and B.
Councillor, that's what we're doing. Okay? All right. Yes. Councillor Holiday?
Thank you, Speaker. My point of order is that I would like to request to vote on main items 1 to 5 separately, as I believe they stand alone, and then the balance. And they can be 1 to 5 as a package.
So you want to vote 1 to 5 separately?
And then the balance.
Yes, 1 to 5 separately,
Yes,
and then the
thank you,
balance.
Speaker.
That's fine. Okay. All right, so we'll put the first motion on the screen. What's that music? I hear music. Is it the media up there? Are they playing music? I'm not hearing things. No interviews during council, please. No interviews during council meetings. Councillor Morley, you don't do an interview in the middle of a vote? Okay. Okay, please quiet. And Councillor Morley, you know that you're in the middle of a vote, you don't do an interview. Okay, we're acting silly now. Okay, the first motion is on the screen. Let's put it on the screen, please. Motion 3A by Councillor Bradford. Yes, we're having a recorded vote. Recorded vote. I see that, quiet. I see that Councillor Bradford's not here. So, is he online?
Madam Speaker,
okay.
I am here.
On
I'm
Councillor
online.
Bradford's motion, recorded vote.
Councillor Sachs, how do you vote, please?
Negative.
In the negative. Motion 3A does not carry. The vote is 3 to 22.
Next motion. Okay, maybe we're going to need a recess for 10 minutes because, no, I'm saying this because it's difficult for me to try to read these motions and hear everybody talking. So please be respectful and quiet while we're voting. I can't hear when everybody's talking. Okay. So quiet. You're in the middle of a vote. 1A. Motion 1A, but Councillor Fletcher, you know better than that. You know it's hard to hear when you're talking. Okay, I don't know. Motion, please. I don't know what we're doing here. Motion 1A by Mayor Chow. It's on the screen, recorded vote. Yeah.
Councillor Ainsley, are you present in the meeting?
Yes, I am.
Councillor Sachs, how do you vote, please?
Affirmative. Affirmative.
Motion 1A carries. The vote is 24-1.
Okay, our next motion is motion 1B by Mayor Chow, recorded vote.
Councillor Sachs, how do you vote, please?
Affirmative. Affirmative.
Motion 1B carries unanimously, 25 in favor.
Next motion is 1C by Mayor Chow, recorded vote. Which?
Councillor Sachs, how do you vote, please?
Affirmative. Affirmative.
Motion 1C carries. The vote is 20-4.
Next motion. Motion 8 by Councillor Perks. If Councillor Fletcher, I ruled on it, remember 5 minutes ago? Yes, okay. That's why we should all be listening.
Councillor Sachs, how do you vote, please?
Affirmative. Affirmative.
Motion 8 carries. The amendment, motion 8 carries. The vote is 20-5.
Okay, next motion. Okay, what we have on the screen now is motion 2A by Councillor Holyday, as amended by Councillor Perks. On favor? On favor? Carried. Okay, thanks. All right, next motion by Councillor Holyday, recorded vote.
Councillor Sachs, how do you vote, please?
Negative.
Motion 2B does not carry. The vote is 7 to 18.
Can somebody want to open it to allow Councillor Fletcher? On favor, carried. Let's vote again. Okay, recorded vote.
Councillor Cheng, please. Councillor Sachs, how do you vote, please?
Negative. Negative.
The revote on motion 2B does not carry. The vote is 10 to 15.
Next motion is motion 2C by Councillor Holyday. Recorded vote.
Councillor Mantis, please. Deputy Mayor Malik, Councillor Perruzza, please.
Oh. They're going to ask me in a second.
Councillor Sachs, how do you vote, please?
Negative. Negative.
Motion 2C does not carry. The vote is 3 to 22.
Okay, next motion. By Councillor Holyday, 2D. Recorded vote.
Councillor Cheng, please. Councillor Perruzza. Councillor Burnside. Councillor Matlow, please. Councillor Sachs, how do you vote?
Negative.
In the negative, thank you. Motion 2D does not carry. The vote is 6 to 19.
Okay, next motion. Motion 3B by Councillor Bradford. Hello? Hello, are people listening? On 3B, it's redundant. All right. Okay, next motion. Motion 4A by Councillor Matlow. Recorded vote. 4A by Councillor Matlow. 4A. Councillor Candaval, Councillor Perks, Councillor Matlow, Councillor Burnside, please. Just a few minutes and then we'll be finished. You have to realize that when you're up here, it's hard to hear with everybody talking.
Councillor Thompson, please.
Sometimes you feel like you're in school, kids screaming. Huh?
Councillor Sachs, how do you vote, please?
Affirmative.
In the affirmative, thank you. Motion 4A carries unanimously, 25 in favor.
Okay, next motion. (4B) by Councillor Matlow. Recorded vote.
Councillor Sachs, how do you vote, please?
Affirmative. Affirmative.
Thank you. Motion 4B carries. The vote is 23 to 1.
Next motion. Motion 5A by Councillor Burnside. Recorded vote.
Councillor Sachs, how do you vote, please?
Affirmative. Affirmative.
Motion 5A carries. The vote is 23 to 1.
Motion to reopen on favor carried. Let's vote again. You know, we only have a few more motions. If we can just hold tight. And, you know, I know it's difficult, but let's do it. And Councillor Fletcher, you know that when you're up here, when people are all talking, how difficult it is to hear? Okay.
Councillor Thompson, please. Councillor Sachs, how do you vote, please?
Affirmative. Affirmative.
The revote on motion 5A carries. The vote is 24 to 1.
It's getting late.
I know.
Move to reopen. Move to reopen. Move to reopen. Move to reopen.
Councillor Pasternak, you want to reopen?
Yes, he does.
Pardon?
Yes.
Okay, but please pay attention. On favor, carried. Let's revote. We're acting like a bunch of kids now. Like, this is really ridiculous.
Just stand
Recorded
by,
vote.
members, while we restage the vote.
I know, I think they're getting tired. They're really getting tired. They should have had a nap first.
Councillor Cheng, please. Mayor Chow, please. Councillor Sachs, how do you vote?
This is the same vote again, right? We're affirmative.
The second revote carries unanimously, 24 in favor.
Okay, next motion. By Councillor Burnside, 5B. Recorded vote.
Councillor Sachs, how do you vote, please?
Affirmative. Affirmative.
Motion 5B carries. The vote is 24 to 1.
Motion 5C. Okay, just one sec. Yeah.
Councillor Sachs, how do you vote, please?
Negative.
In the negative. Motion 5C, Part A of Motion 5C does not carry. The vote is 7 to 17.
Okay, Part B, recorded vote.
Councillor Perruzza, please. Councillor Sachs, how do you vote, please?
Negative.
In the affirmative?
Negative.
Mayor Chow, what's your vote? Part B of Motion 5C carries. The vote is 23 to 1.
We did say it. Yes, we did 5A first and then 5C. Yes. Okay, next motion. Motion 6 by Councillor Ainsley. Recorded vote.
Councillor Peruzza, your vote, please. Councillor Sachs, how do you vote, please? Oh, sorry, Councillor Sachs not present. The motion 6 carries unanimously, 24 in favor.
Next motion. Motion 7 by Councillor Fletcher. Recorded vote.
Councillor Burnside, Councillor Myers, please.
Those bells are getting on my nerves.
Okay, bells for me.
You don't hear any bells? Oh, wow.
And Councillor, oh, sorry, Councillor Sachs is not in the meeting.
No, I know.
Motion 7 carries. The vote is 21-3.
Okay, next motion. Next motion is by Councillor Peruzza. Recorded. Sorry.
Councillor Peruzza, please. Councillor Peruzza, please. Motion 9 carries. The vote is 16-8.
Our next motion by Councillor Chang, recorded.
Councillor Matlow, please. Motion 10 carries. The vote is 23-1.
Okay, members of council, with all Councillor Carroll's motion, rather than go each one of them recorded, can we vote on it as a package? Huh? Oh, absolutely not. Oh, okay. We can't. No, but can I ask a question? Can we do a hand vote or do we have to do recorded? Okay, we can do a hand vote. Okay, all right. Okay, so let's, motion 11A by Councillor Carroll, on favor, recorded? Recorded he wants. I'm sorry, I can't hear you, John.
Councillor Chang and Councillor Pertza, please. Motion 11A carries unanimously. The vote is 24 in favor.
Madam Speaker, it's Councillor Ainsley on a point of order.
Councillor Holiday, you asked for a recorded vote, but you voted in favor. You made a mistake. Okay, motion 11B by
Madam Speaker,
Councillor
it's Councillor
Carroll.
Ainsley on a point of order.
On favor, carried. Councillor Ainsley?
I was just going to ask if we're doing recorded votes on all of these, can we turn the bells off as a compromise?
No, but we're not. We're not going to recorded vote on all of them.
That would be great.
Okay. On favor, carried. Next motion. 11C by Councillor Carroll. On favor, carried. Councillor Holiday, you want a recorded vote?
Oh, come on.
Pardon?
I'm satisfied if you just call opposed, that's all.
Are there any opposed?
Councillor Holiday's opposed.
I'm fine.
Actually faster just to do the vote.
Yeah, I know.
On favor, opposed if any, carried. Next motion, 11D by Councillor Carroll. On favor, show of hands. Opposed if any, carried. 11E by Councillor Carroll. On favor, opposed if any, carried. Now on the next one, we'll have to have a recorded vote. Councillor, there's a conflict on this one. Yes. Recorded vote.
Councillor Matlow and Councillor Thompson, please. Motion 11F carries unanimously, 23 in favor.
Okay. Next motion. (11G). On favor, show of hands, post if any, carried. Councillor Coe?
I'm here.
Okay. Okay, the next motion is 11H by Councillor Carroll. On favor, show of hands. Opposed, if any, carried. 11I, on favor, show of hands. Opposed, if any, carried. 11J, on favor, opposed, if any, carried. 11K, on favor, show of hands, opposed, if any, carried. Is that it? Okay. Okay, but don't we have to vote on, don't we have to Okay. Okay, Councillor Holiday is asked on the main report 1 to 5. On favor? Recorded vote? Okay, recorded vote. 1 to 5 on the main report.
Just stand by, members, while we stage the vote.
Councillor Morley, please. Parts 1 to 5 of the item carried. The vote is 19 to 5.
Okay, Councillor Mantis, if you can leave the room, please. So, on the balance, item as amended as it pertains to vehicles for hire, recorded vote.
Councillor Fletcher, please. Okay. The item is amended as it pertains to vehicles for hire carries. The vote is 21 to 2.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Mantis. You can come back in. Councillor Cole, can you leave the room, please? So the balance of the item as amended as it pertains to the Toronto Transit Commission, recorded vote.
The balance of the item as amended as it pertains to the Toronto Transit Commission carries. The vote is 22 to 1.
Councillor Cole, you can come back in. Okay, The balance of the item as amended, recorded vote.
Councillor Chang, Councillor Perruzza, please. The balance of the item as amended carries. The vote is 23 to 1.
Okay. May I have a motion to introduce the general bills? Councillor Holiday, why don't you do that one? You don't want to do the bills? Okay. Councillor Thompson.
For my microphone. Thank you, Speaker. Are we ready?
Yes.
Good to go? Okay. Okay, great, thanks. That leave be granted to introduce bills 101 to 105.
Shall leave be granted to introduce these bills? On favor, show of hands. Opposed, if any, carried. Shall these bills be declared as bylaws and be passed subject to Section 226.9 of the City of Toronto Act 2006? On favor, show of hands, carried. May I have a motion to introduce the confirmatory bills? Mayor Chow, would you like to do that one?
That leave be granted to introduce bill to confirm to the point of the introduction of this motion, the proceeding of City Council meeting 27 on February 11, 2025.
Okay, can I have quiet, please? We have one more vote. Shall leave be granted to introduce these bills? On favor, carried. Shall these bills be declared as bylaws and be passed subject to Section 226.9 of the City of Toronto Act 2006? On favor, show of hands, opposed if any. Thank you to staff. Thank you to members of council. And I think I earned my pay today. I should get paid double and a half for me.
Deserve a raise.
Yes.